Hi, John. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're expecting to have one new student session. Cynthia Roberts. So let's see if she'll be able to join the session. And Nia, I think, yeah, there's something came up, and I think she's missing the session today, and we'll be catching up starting today. So yeah, just use the time during lab to assist her with the things that she needs to do in order for her to catch up. Okay, so the plan for today is to finish group by up until distinct. So it would be illnesses and having in between, and then you can do the practice and lab. So let's see how many would be able to join. I think there's a um like a massive solar storm that's also affecting the US. I'm not sure if um yeah, more people will be able to join. Gazelle's cohort already ended, right? It's already done.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So you
The
can
students
focus with
are asking me if when they can get their certificates.
yeah, you should message. Well, let me do that.
Also,
Yeah, I'll be messaging Sherry about it. Try to send it maybe Tuesday the latest. Okay, it's already 12. Hi Grace, welcome to the meeting. You're the first one.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
middle of the night, but good morning.
Yeah. So how was the weekend? I think there's an ongoing solar storm that's
Yeah.
also affecting the US. Have you seen the uh Northern Lights?
No, I live too far south. I'm only like
It's
2 hours from Mexico. So if I lived further up north, everybody else saw something or I heard.
it's hmm, 2 hours from Mexico. So are you going from your location to Mexico every now and then, or have you visited it before?
Yeah, I have.
I see. I
um,
see.
you can go down to Mexico via San Diego,
Hmm.
California, and
Hmm.
that's more common for me.
I see.
But there's the beaches over there. But yes, you can go down to
Yeah, and I
Mexico
think
from Arizona.
yeah, the food is also great in there. We have
Oh,
well here in the Philippines. Well, I think you have lived here for some time. There's so many dishes that are the same. Even the ingredients are the same. Hi, Hasiba. Welcome to the meeting. Hasiba, okay, can you hear me? Okay, okay. Let me see the chat box. Okay, let's wait for the others. We're expecting new students today. So, Hasiba says I can't open my mic because of the kids' noise. Yeah, no worries. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, you can just use the chat or during the recitation. Even the kids are noisy. It's perfectly fine. I completely understand it. So uh, don't worry too much. Okay, 2 more minutes, and then whether the others join or not, we'll be starting. So we're all already midway through sequel. Um, if we can finish everything that I've intended for today, then I think we can start with intermediate sequel on Monday. Hmm, okay, so maybe we should start. Okay, let me share my screen. So let's do a quick recapitulation of what we discussed the last time. So the last time we were able to talk about um, several SQL queries, including the, let's see, let's have this cap. Um, okay, getting confused with this multiple decks. Okay, so anyway, we're, the last time we discussed with the where class, we talked about this different operators, and we had these examples for each. So it's not really that complicated. So you just have to be very careful, especially when you're working with this parentheses. So um, and it's also important to take note that, for example, if you want to use the between, always remember that that's inclusive. So basically, you'll be including the first value and also the last value. It's similar to the greater than or equal to and less than or equal to combination. And these are those. Okay, these are those logical operators. So we have the and, which is um, you need to satisfy all of the conditions in order to get an output. And then we have the or. So it's less restrictive in a sense that if you have satisfied like one condition, you would get an output as compared to the end. Then you have the in, which is like an extension of the or. So instead of having a very lengthy query with multiple ors, you can just place everything inside the parentheses. Together, use the in, okay, the in logical operator. And then this was the one that I was referring to earlier, the between. So the one thing that you have to remember with it is it's inclusive, okay? And then we have is null. So there are so many reasons that you may want to visualize the missing values. It could be like um, this missing values could be exhibiting patterns that are reflective of, for example, how well a questionnaire has been constructed. Aside from that, it would also guide you in what what method of missing value replacement would be. So we will be talking about that, especially as we discuss analytics with Python. But yeah, that's one of the reason why you would be looking into only the missing values. And of course, If you want to just look into the complete cases, then you would be having this logical operator. If it's not null, they'll be disregarding those with missing cases. And then we have the not, which is basically just an inverse. So you are reversing a statement whenever you use the not operator. And then lastly, we have the like. The like is part of the regular expression, and we have discussed this two wild cards rather that we use together with like the underscore and the percentage sign. Okay, and these practices that I prepared, John, can you assign them this practices if there are still confusion with the logical operators? Originally, these practices I intend them to be recitations. However, with the current cohort, we are just few. So I think it would be best if they just have these practices during lab. Okay. So yep, those are the things that we have talked about and this practices that John will be assigning to you for the lab. Okay. So that's all for the recapitulation, and then let's proceed with aggregate function. Okay. Or for today's plan. So for today's plan, I want to discuss aggregate functions, for example, descriptive statistics, summaries that are very informative, such as getting the average, okay, using SQL to get the average, to get the sum, okay, so those kinds of things. And we'll be also dealing with group by statements like um, so, for example, you want to know the count of males and females in your records or any other categories. You can do that using the group by. And also aliases. So, aliases make our query more readable in a sense that it would shorten very lengthy table names or column names. So, using alias in your SQL query is a must do. Okay. And you have the having. So, we've talked about that the having is just similar to the where clause. However, the existence of the having is because of the order of execution. Okay, we will be discussing that. Um, you would be seeing how this fundamental queries are being run under the hood. So which is coming first, which is being run first. Okay, so it would be clear to you why do we need a having um instead of just the where clause. And we will see the cases in which we'll be getting an errors if we try to use, say, aggregate functions in the where clause. So, for example, you can think of it this way: you may want to filter your records based on whether it is above an aggregate value such as the average. Okay, so imagine getting um, or trying to get all the values greater than the average of that column. You cannot do that with a where clause. So the reason for that is again the order of execution. Okay, I've prepared a visualization so that you can easily understand what I was saying. Okay, so and of course we have this distinct. So I think John already introduced the idea of distinct to you. So for example, you have tons of replicates. Okay, then you just want to see, okay, how many of this or what are the records in my table that are unique or distinct. So, for example, looking into the airlines that are from this specific origin and are landing on this destination. So instead of seeing, okay, all of these records are American Airlines, you can just use the distinct statement in order to see all of those different airlines. Okay, with the same condition. Am I clear? Grace and Hasiba. Sorry for my voice; it's still a bit hoarse, but I hope everything is clear. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that response. Okay, so let's talk about the order by. So I've already introduced to you the idea, so we'll just extend, okay, and maybe look into it in a more structured way, defining it um, formally in class. So order by, so it sorts the data. We have seen that in action. So the default sorting option is ascending, whether you put ASC or not. It is the default thing. So whenever you want to sort it in ascending order, you don't have to put the ASC. Okay, so it's the default one. So here we have an example of the implementation of the order by. So we have the select and then the star from tutorial.us flights order by distance. So when you see this, even without seeing anything after the distance, we already know that the default is ascending. So here, if you want to do otherwise, if you want to do it by descending, then you just have to use DESC. Okay, I hope that's clear, and I think that's straightforward. So, it's when you have a column that is a string, that it would order it alphabetically, okay, ascending or descending. But if that's a number, then it would be arranged according to magnitude, from highest to lowest or the other way around. Okay, always remember that. And we can sort it by date, okay, by numbers and by words. By date, if well, it follows that if you do it by ascending, then you'll be starting from the oldest one up to the most recent one. Okay. Now let's have a bit of complexity right here. So it's worth to remember that sorting levels in Excel is similar to what we're doing with multiple columns. So here I have a basic query selecting all of the columns from the same table. However, if you look at the order by statement, I have here two columns. So first, origin would be sorted by ascending order, unless we specify that it's also descending. Do you follow? So if you want both of the origin and destination to, or distance rather, to be descending, then you have to specify that it's also DSC. Okay, so as simple as that. So always remember that. Okay. So pretty much the same thing as what we're doing with Excel. So I have this practices, but again, since we've already seen how it works, then John, please assign this practices to them during lab. So I've also prepared some other things that we'll be practicing during the lecture. But for the interest of time, so that we can cover more stuffs, I think this too would be or should be discussed in lab. So let's move on to aggregate functions. So aggregate functions again, um, it it summarizes the values in your table, specifically by columns, depending on the aggregate value. It could be the sum. Okay, if it's a numerical value, um, it could also be a length, right? We can look into the length of a like maximum length of a character. We can get an average. So here it is. So aggregate functions are used to perform operations across entire columns, which could include millions of rows or more. Think about making calculated columns in Power Pivot, right? If you remember our discussion with Power Pivot, so the calculated columns would be looking into all of the values in your, all of the rows, all of the inputs in your columns. So you can think of, okay, when you get the sum of that column, you're basically just adding all up and just getting the total. So it aggregates all the values in your column to have a single value. Okay. So we also have what we call count, okay, in SQL. So it counts the numbers of rows in the column. So you can use this on numeric and non-numeric columns. So basically here, we'll be utilizing this new table and we'll be counting all of the records in this table. Okay. So let's see. So let's proceed to mode. Guys, let's open our mode. Just and let's do a quick practice of this. Again, we know what it does. It counts the number of rows. So let's say maybe while I'm doing this, let's discuss why is it even important to know it, to like count the rows. So in itself, it's not really that useful, but the good thing about it is we can combine it together with other statements as well, SQL statements. Like for example, counting only the distinct ones, we can do that. So for example, the analytics question is asking for like how many distinct airlines are there that has this certain descriptions, certain conditions. Um, it's very useful to use the count, okay, for that case. So let's see, um, count. So in our example earlier, we'll be selecting count ID, okay, from tutorial orders, dot orders, okay. And just as simple as that. That's this is the first time we are running this thing. Then let's make it simple. So as you can see in here, we have 6,912 rows from tutorial dot orders. So if you look at that, um, okay, all of the rows in here, all of the rows in this table that has this number of columns total to what was it again? 6,000 um 912. Again, currently it's very basic. Okay, it's very basic, but we'll be building up in complexity as we proceed along. Any questions, guys? It just basically counts the number of rows in our table. Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, when you put count ID is would be one of the columns in this data set.
Exactly, exactly. So actually,
Okay.
even if you use the star, it should be the same. So basically, you can use any particular column if you just want to know the total number of the rows. So it won't matter at all. Okay, Grace, was that clear? Okay. Yep. So I just use the ID column, but again, yeah, the star would also work. It will just count the number of instances here. Even if there are replicates, it would still include it. But if you would ask it, okay, I will only want the distinct. I'll be showing you later once I was able to um, introduce to you the concept of distinct. You could see that okay, I can eliminate the distinct in the counting. So it's very easy actually. Okay, to just like for example, this in this case, if you put here an account ID, as you can see, there are multiple replicates. So, for example, you don't want to count these replicates and just count all of the unique values. So you can combine it together with the select count, the distinct statement. Okay. But for now, I'll not be doing that. Okay, until the time that I introduce to you the definition of the distinct. Okay, so let's go back to our um, deck. So, yep, the next aggregate function that we will be talking about is the sum. So the sum is the old sum that you know in mathematics. So it's been the like one of the most basic, but it's also one of the most useful. So in mathematics, usually the more complicated ones are not really being used in day-to-day life, but the basic ones are really extremely useful. Like for example, getting the sum, getting the difference, getting um the quotient, okay, all of that thing. So especially when you're, for example, always outside and buying things, you should be able to like quickly do mental computation. So I think it's a good skill. So yep, sum, it just adds all the values in the column and treats nulls as zero. So there's nothing wrong with it currently. If you want to get the sum, treating it as a zero, it won't hurt you. But it's a different thing if you're trying to get the average, right? So treating the nulls as zero would definitely change the value. It would pull those zeros have magnitude. It will pull the values to it. So with the sum, it won't. So can only use on numeric columns. Okay. So for example, in this case, we are getting the sum of the quantity, okay, from tutorial.orders. And let's do that. Let's see. So sum, okay, so select sum of quantity from tutorial orders. Again, I want you to do it together with me, okay? So basically, this will just be a single value. It will just total all of the quantities in your quantity column. So maybe we can try it. Okay, Jeff, what would happen if we tried to apply it to a non-numeric column? Let's see. So let's try applying the sum to occurred at. Okay, so let's see. Let's apply it to 3. Okay, when we do that, it won't show us anything. Let's see. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the meeting.
Hey, good morning.
Yep.
Or
Good morning.
good evening.
So we're just discussing this simple aggregate functions. So function sum times top does not exist. So basically it's telling us that okay, you're trying to sum up a value that is not really numerical. But I wonder why 3 doesn't work. Let's see. It also work. Was it 3? 1, 2, 3. All right. So anyway, so as you can see, if you try to apply it with the non-numeric, well, in this case, the date is actually numeric, but it's a different format. So you will get this kind of error, which basically will give you an idea on what's wrong. Okay, so that's the sum, and hmm, let's see. Okay, yeah, I will hold that for now. So let's proceed with the next aggregate function. We have the AVG. So this is just the good old average in mathematics. So get all the values in your column and divide it by the number of observations. So in this case you'll be ignoring the nulls completely. You will not do what you did with the sum, that you will treat the nulls as zero. In this case, the nulls would completely be ignored. It would not be added to the number of divisor in the computation. It would not add anything to the numerator. It would just be ignored totally. So pretty straightforward, similar with the other aggregate functions. So in this case, like for example, if you want to know the average quantity, um, it's just apply it directly like that. Okay. So in this way, we'll be able to get the average of the quantity. So the quantity is, I think, what was the quantity? Is it the third column? Fourth column? Is it giving me anything? And I use the count. Should give, um, hmm, maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. But anyway, yeah, I was trying to just use the number of columns or the order, but yeah, I think I'm missing something there. But anyway, that's the average for you, and of course we have the minimum. So guys, the minimum is just okay. Like for example, you have an analytics question such as this. So what is our like the minimum minimum sale? Okay, minimum sales, like the minimum score in your suppose that you are dealing with a school record. So for a particular student, what is like the lowest score he or she has? So those are the kinds of questions that this min aggregate function could answer. So for example, when applying with the min with the account ID, um, well, in this case, it doesn't really make sense. Is the account ID is not really a numeric in itself. Um, it's a number, but you should not treat it as such, right? Because it's um, like an address. So with the ID, we can do it this way. So there are times that applying an aggregate function on a column, even though it's a number, doesn't make sense. So for example, like the ID in this case, if you look at the column ID, it's just really the count of the rows, right? So it's a row counter. So in the quantity, yeah, and even in the amount USD, it's completely valid to ask the minimum, right? But with the ID, it doesn't really make sense. So for example, the question is like the lowest amount. So we have zero for some reason. Um, let's see. Let's see. It could be a misencoding. So there is an ID, okay, that are equivalent account ID occurred at this with zero quantity and zero amount USD. I feel sketchy about this record. So it is probably missing values that are like assigned zeros. Because it doesn't make sense to have um these transactions with the corresponding dates with zero quantities and zero amount. So I feel really sketchy about this record. So if 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 it would be me and I don't have like any additional descriptions, so I will just assume it as missing value. So that's what I will do. I will not really use this value in getting the um like the total average, okay, because it would definitely affect the average if you use this zero. So there will be a dropping of this column or rather rows. So we will be dropping this rows. Um, so we will see that once we transition to Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. We'll be seeing how we can drop the specific rows in our data set. But for now, since these are predefined tables, we cannot actually drop them here in mode. So, yep. Any questions, guys? Anything that you want to ask, or was everything clear so far? Questions? Okay. So, yep, thank you very much for the response. So again, our focus for this session would be the application of the aggregate function. And as we proceed along, we'll be seeing how we can like combine them with the other queries that we talked about, like the where, the having, and so on. So if there is a min, there's a max. Okay, so like this would answer questions such as what is the highest sales recorded. So you can just apply it. Like for example, here, the max is applied to occurred at. So um, you can apply it to a numeric variable, to a date variable. So if you do that, it would give you the most recent one. So in this case, the reason why I put the date column here is I want to show that okay, if you apply it to a date column, it would give you the most recent one. And for a non-numeric value, the one that is close to z as possible. Okay, so if that's the case, when you apply the min, then it should be giving you like the nearest to a. Okay, following the same logic. So let's say applying the max function here, you select max of the column occurred at, which is a date column tutorial dot orders. Okay, when we do that, it would give us the most recent record. Um, let me see the column name. Occurred at. Yeah. Uh, do I need to convert it to um
That's
column
a
occurred or
double
does
R.
not exist?
A double
Sorry?
R, sir. A double R, sir.
Hmm. The double R? Let's see. Yeah, my bad. Okay. Cured. There we go. So I was thinking that it is asking me to convert it into varchar first and then well let me see the file. Should not be the case, right? It should be already like a timestamp. Yeah, it's already a timestamp, so I don't need to edit anything. Okay. So yep, this is just a straightforward um application. So let's go back here. So let's do some practice. So how many rows are there in the table? So here, um, if we will be using the same table, tutorial dot orders, it will just be how. And an idea from the group, what should we do with number one? How can we answer this?
Do we just use
Uh,
this a select function? The
Yep.
select star, select asterisk, right?
Yeah. If we do that, it would just show us all the records, but we're
Yeah,
specifically
just
asking for the rows.
yeah. Don't you just get all the records and then you can count how many rows?
You can do well. That's actually a correct answer. It's also a correct way to do that. But if you want to be more efficient, you can apply an aggregate function to that table, and it
Okay,
will just return a single value that corresponds to the total rows, right?
okay,
Yeah, but I understand what you were saying, Jeff. That yeah, just show everything, right, and see how many rows are there. So that's actually also like a brute way of um looking at the number of rows. You can accomplish it the same way. How about the others? Any idea? And like what aggregate function uh would be used? Okay, so select count flight num. So if you do that, um, would it give you the number of rows? The answer is yes. So whether the record is actually missing, it would still count it. So whether like any existing column in the table you choose, it would still it would still give you the same number of rows. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, let's do that. So we select count of what? Whether you use like the star, it won't really matter because it would just give us the same thing, the total number of rows. If we do that, run it, and then we have the total count. Again, even if you use like the ID in here, it would just be the same thing, 6912. Okay, because even there are like missing values in the rows of that column, it would still be counted. Do you follow? So how many rows are there in the table? Do you follow, guys? Any questions here? Just want to make sure that before I proceed to the next one, everything was clear. Questions? Okay, so let's consider the other number. What is the biggest flight? So you already have the keywords right there. The biggest, the shortest, the average, the total. So you should be able to see, okay, the biggest, you're looking for the max, right? So let's apply that. So flight num. So let's first write the question as a comment. What is the biggest flight num? So of course this is referring to a different table. So it's not referring to the tutorial that orders, right? So it is specifically asking for the max of the flight num, which is we know is from the tutorial.us flights. So there we go. And if we run this, we would see the max flight num, which is actually 7438. Do you follow, guys? Questions? Questions?
Yes, all good.
Okay. Thank you very much. And also the others, please let me know. And don't hesitate to ask questions if something is confusing, okay? And also if you want to share your ideas, just let me know. So for the third one, what is the shortest arrival delay? So let's see, what is the shortest arrival delay in the table? So here, you'll be selecting the min. Again, these are just very straightforward. I don't want to bombard you with complicated things during the
Um,
first time that I
Jeff,
introduce it.
can you do me a quick favor? Can you scroll up real quick? Let me just see the.
Sure.
I just want to see uh
Which one
the.
here, Jeff?
Okay, that no, the count one, the count one. Try
Uh,
go. Oh, you can.
this one?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the count
So it's
function,
just
Jeff,
count ID, so the number of IDs.
the number of rows actually, yeah, the number of rows of the ID column.
Yeah,
So it's
instead
just the
of
same
doing the
thing.
count of a asterisk, if you do asterisk, it might be an empty row. That you count the empty rows too.
It would be the same. Even for example, ID has a like an empty row, it would still be counted in the in the count,
Oh,
unless you
okay, cool.
specify that, for example, it would be distinct or um, yeah, in this particular example, it would just be totally the same as with the asterisk. But yeah, you
Or
can
if you
manipulate.
like, you can just set up a condition where it's saying
Yes,
is
exactly.
not is basically it's not null, is
No,
non null.
yeah. You can specify so many different conditions here in which it would be different if you have those yeah conditions set in place. So but yeah, this very example that we have, it would be just the same. Okay. So, yep. So, going back here, so this will just be from the same tutorial.us flights. Okay. So, if we do that, we'll be able to see um that the well, this is not actually a minimum. Well, it should not be interpreted as like an actual arrival delay. Remember that if you want to identify the arrival delay, it should be a positive number, right? Because negative means it's on time. Do you follow? So we can specify a condition there, like what it's perfect with what they said in the chat box. We can specify a statement that the arrival delay must be 0. But let's see, okay? Let's see. We specify. We try to add that where ARR delay is greater than 0. Means we want it to be non-negative, right? If we understood the conditions well, then it should be something positive, right? However, like for example, if we want to say, okay, what is like the worst delay, you would be looking at the maximum, okay? And actually, the condition doesn't make um doesn't help anything in here, but yeah, we would see that it would be 1444. It's actually a very long waiting time, a very long delay, right? Does it make sense? Am I making any sense here? The arrival delay should be a positive number if it's actually referring to the actual delay, and then the negative number means it's actually early, right? If you remember, if you think about how we record time, in terms of like arrivals, okay. So if the expectation is like 4 hours, and you made it in less than 4 hours, then it would be a negative number. But if you exceeded that, that would be a positive number corresponding to a delay, right? So again, just like what Grace pointed out here in the chat box, and also what Jeff um, suggested earlier, we can specify so many conditions, okay, in our together with our aggregate functions here. And don't worry, as we proceed along, we will be combining it. Like for example, here with group by, we'll be discussing group by. We can group it by like um, what would be the average age grouped by gender. We can do that. Okay. So I just want to make sure that everything is clear before we move to a more complex discussion. So what is the average distance? So for this one, I want someone to share their mode and actually do this thing for me. Number 4 and number 5. Okay. Let's do it as a recitation. And again, it's completely fine to commit errors, guys. Even me, I oftentimes commit error. I forget things. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing. Um, how should I say this? It's completely fine and understandable to commit those errors. Okay. So, yep, 4 and 5. Anyone? 4 and 5. If you're too afraid to make errors, then you'll be trying less. And if you try less, then you're eliminating your chance of succeeding, right? Anyone? No brave soul out here?
So
I
is this
think so.
select average
Yeah.
Yeah.
distance?
So, so show your mode and let's see. Again, in coding, the best way to learn it is through muscle memory. right? And you should do it in class. I think John is getting ready to give you a very complicated queries in lab. Jeff, do you mind sharing your mode and do number four?
Oh, I don't actually have my mode open up right now.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'll open up like when somebody else opened up.
Okay, okay,
I'll get to it. Yeah.
okay,
I will
sure.
do that.
Okay, Asiba, please, please. You can take it away anytime. I stopped sharing.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it, but it would be better if you can zoom it a bit. My eyes are failing for this small. Okay, this is better.
Sorry for the background noise. I
No, no, no,
just
it's completely fine. I'm not hearing anything. How about you, John? I don't hear anything actually.
uh,
And I'm so used to kids, so
yeah.
don't worry.
So it's the average distance in the table.
Yeah. So this is distance. We don't have any distance in tutorial dot orders. So that distance is actually referring to uh US underscore flights. So you use the table US underscore flights.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
But
won't
show here.
advise you to use spaces when you apply aggregate function. So it's not a good practice that you use it. Yeah, because when we discuss Python, I think Python would give you an error if you put any space in between your aggregate function and the like the
Should I use
specific.
a space or not?
No, for the average and our other function, you should not use. Although again, it's not wrong, but it's a good practice. It's a good practice that you do the correct way of writing your codes.
Okay.
Okay, hit it with a closing semicolon, and then that's it. Okay, so you
This
have
one.
here an error. Okay, what I want
I
you to
think
do
this
is
one
to,
was not there.
yeah, no, no, no. Explain to me what you are seeing in the error message.
Use
Column
flight
use
does
flight does
not
not exist.
exist.
So
Yes.
it means that there's something wrong with, for example, what there's a possibility that that column is not really existing because of what?
I have
Spelling. Just like the
spelling. Yeah.
error that I
You need to
committed
run the
earlier. Yeah.
table again and see what's the spelling.
Yep. But you're looking at the orders. Don't look at the
Um,
orders. It's a different table. It should be US flights, right? So
oh,
insert at the top before your query or even at the bottom,
yeah.
select star and then US underscore flight.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm a little bit slow.
No worries, no worries. It's not a speed competition, right? Tutorial.us flights. There we go. There we go. Hmm. Look at the column names. US flight. What we want is actually the average distance.
Yeah.
So distance. Where is the distance column?
Here.
That's actually a destination.
Okay.
Distance should be a number. There
Uh-huh.
we go. This one. So it should be distance, not US underscore flight. What you have in your line 45 is the name of the table. Okay. This time it would run. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Zero
Okay, okay.
seven.
Yep, yep. So thank you very much, Asiba.
You're welcome.
Yep. Um Grace, do you mind doing number 5? So the question there was, what is the total security delay for all fights in the table? Security delay. Do we have a security delay there?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I did it already, so I could share.
Okay, okay. Security delay.
Oh, Jeff can go.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
do have it up.
Yeah, I'll
So
be
He
giving
yeah,
it
said
to
he
you.
already ran it.
this is what I did.
Okay. Can you zoom it a bit more, Jeff? Okay. Yeah. So one comment here, Jeff, is it's better if you capitalize the select and from.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
habit.
Again, it would still run, even it's like all lowercase, but yeah, for a good practice, they should be capitalized. Okay, and you should have like an ending semicolon indicating that you have ended your query, right?
Yeah, semicolon.
Yeah. Can you try running it again? 2641. Okay. So what if what are like mm, is there a possibility that those delay include negative or yeah, negative delay? How would you verify it?
Oh,
Because if you add like if you just get the sum, the negative would actually reduce the total. So
Why don't you try select min first to see if negative
yeah,
values
that's one way.
even exist?
what
Because
about this way? What about
how
this?
would you even define a security delay of -0? That's like
Minus
security
zero.
like fast tracking you through
Yeah,
would be -0.
but it's a
Can you say
valid
pre-check?
question, right? It's a valid
Yeah.
question that it's a possibility that there's a negative number here, so this total could actually be okay. So it verifies now that all of this are positive,
Yeah,
right? Okay. You can also hit it with a mean. Can you try it, Jeff? Can you try Grace's idea of hitting it with a mean,
yeah.
like min, like a minimum instead of a sum? Do it in a separate query, okay, and try removing that where clause. Yeah, let's see. Oh, it's actually zero. So
Yep, yep.
I'm just crazy to think
So
that
that means there's no negative.
yeah, yeah. It's just well, playful thinking that maybe it's negative, so it could trigger the total, but it doesn't make sense that the security delay actually sped up the the arrival. It doesn't make any sense. So yep. So that's how like well these are just basic practices, but at least you have this experience of applying this aggregate functions. Okay. So let's move forward because we need to discuss other things as well so that we can have more weapons in our arsenal, right? So the more SQL queries we know, the more ways we can combine them together. Okay, we can be more creative. So let's discuss group by. Can you see my screen? Do you see it? Okay, thank you very much, John. 3 minutes, or maybe hmm, let's do a quick 10-minute break. Okay, like a water break or a bio break, and then let's continue with group by after the break. Is that good to everyone?
That's good. I need my coffee now.
Okay, you
10
get
minutes.
coffee
Okay.
or whiskey, anything that would make you awake. Okay. So yep, let's be back after 10 minutes. Okay, so it's already 10 minutes. So I hope you're back. Siba, Chris, Jeff, please let me know.
I'm there.
Okay, okay. What about the others? Thank you very much, Grace. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's continue. So basically, well, group buy is similar to aggregating, the aggregation function, but you're only doing it with a subset of the table. You're not doing it for the entirety of like the columns that you have in your table. So that's the main difference between the SQL aggregate functions that we just talked about. Like for example, we want to count the number of orders for each year. Those are the typical analytics questions, right? Like maybe what are the total counts of orders by store location, by uh, customer segment, by gender. Those are the typical analytics questions. So there are tendencies when it comes to like behavior of particular segments of um, customers. Could be well, we can think of so many different categories that would affect how people buy things, right? So you can think of like males should be more into buying beers and meat, and well, as compared to females, and females should be more into cosmetics. So there are natural tendencies, so we would want to see it through this aggregation using group by. So to do something like this, we need to use the group by clause. So let's look into the group by clause. So it condenses the data into summary rows. Okay, summary rows. So it allows you to separate data into groups which can be aggregated independently of each other. So here we have a basic implementation of the group by. So we are using the table tutorial.us underscore flights, and we will be grouping the the count, okay, the count of rows by unique carrier. So there would be two columns, okay, in the output identified by the select clause. We have the unique carrier and their individual counts. So you can think of it this way. Let me pull up my Epic pen. So let's have a visual of what would happen in this SQL query. So suppose you have, okay, a column for um unique carrier. I'll just make it UA, and then another. Okay, so mm, no, even one column actually would work. So suppose that you have this column for unique carrier, and you have this AA, AA, and so on. So basically, what it does is, okay, how many times uh does this AA appear, okay, in your table? So it will just stack it all together, okay, in one count. So all of this are AA. So it will be counted and it will be stacked together. It would be summarized. And then suppose that you have another carrier here, UA, and UA, then they will be stacked together. As long as they are appearing in your rows, they will be stacked together. So that's what's happening with count. Okay. Is this a good visualization or
Wait, so are you saying that like UA will only appear once on the left side?
actually it's possible that UA only appears once. So the count of that would be 1. But what if UA appears twice? So
No, but
that
I
would
mean,
be
I'm
5.
saying like on the left side, it will only appear once, though, right? Because
Uh,
it's just gonna have the count on the right side, right?
yes, that's correct. So
Like for example, UA, it would just be like, well, the actual result, it won't. The left side won't be like
there
that
would
many
be no
times,
repetition.
right? It will just be one UA, and then it will show like maybe 3 or 4 times, whatever on
Yes,
the right.
yes, exactly. So the other column would actually identify like the number of times it appeared in your table. So the number of rows actually that corresponds to UA. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So let me think of another way to visualize it. Hmm, maybe an Excel file would be better. Let me see. I want to make sure that yeah um the process is clear before we jump into um the actual code. I'm pretty sure I made an Excel table before in explaining this.
Jeff, by putting count in the select line,
Mhm.
it's going to give you a summary table, right? Not just
Exactly.
grouping the data. It's going to give you a
Yes.
table. Okay.
It's a summary table. With a count, actually, it's a column. It's a column of like how many times a particular category appear. Let me see. I think I opened a specific file earlier. Okay, so yeah. So suppose that hmm, we have a unique carrier here. Okay, that has say AA, UA, AB. Assume that we have AB. I think we don't have any AB, just for the purpose of discussion. Okay, so we have this unique carrier. So when you apply um, a group by, so what it does is it will just look for those specific unique groups in your row. So there would be how many unique categories? There would be one for AA, one for UA, one for AB, and one for EC. And then what the count does is actually it's taking up together that okay, how many times does AA appeared? So it would be 2, UA 1, AB 3, and EC would be 1. So you will have a two column. We'll have two columns, unique carrier, and then the other one would be actually the count. So it's similar to actually applying a pivot table. If you do apply a pivot table and use the unique carrier as the rows and values, you would actually get the same thing. And it's actually what SQL is doing under the hood. Do you follow? Okay, so let's see. Let's move on to um let's move on to mode and let's see it in action. So starting from now, I will not start from select clause. Okay, I'll be starting from the from clause. And the reason from that is we're almost approaching the having clause. And I want to follow the actual sequence in which um, SQL is actually running it. Okay, so group by unique carrier, and then I want to have this following columns to appear in my table. So, yep, when we do that, we would see a summary table, just like what Grace predicted. Okay, and I want to make it a bit pretty by ordering it by unique carrier ascending. right?
and this might be a little bit ahead of my getting
Mm.
ahead of ourselves. I remember seeing before code. Sometimes when they do group by, they do like a group by 1, 2, 3, 4. What is that?
Yeah, you're actually grouping by the actual column, but instead of referring to the actual name, you'll be grouping by like um how the columns appeared in your table. Like if you group by one, let's say, that's actually what I was trying to do earlier.
So
Instead of
so you essentially in this case, group by unique carrier is the same thing as group by one.
not really. If it's the first column, then yes. And I actually have a separate discussion about that. Like
Okay,
how do we use those things? So those are actually shortcuts. So for example,
gotcha.
if
But
I
in
refer
this
to
case,
two,
wouldn't group by one the same thing as group by unique carrier because unique carrier will be the first column, right? No,
um, i- if that's the first column, then yes, it would be the
like
same.
I
So
mean the code above that will be the first column, right? Unique carrier.
yeah, yeah. So
So
here,
if you do group
it,
by one, it'll be the same thing.
yeah. That's actually correct. So here,
Okay,
the first column is actually the unique
got it.
carrier.
Okay,
Yeah. Because here it appeared like the first in your select clause. If you group
got it.
it by count, it doesn't make sense because the count is actually a number and you cannot use. If, for example, let's group it by a certain like another column.
Hold on, Jeff. And this one, order by unique carrier. So it's putting it in alphabetical unique carrier. What if you wanted it order by count ascending? Can you do that?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. So I either we do this. So using the method that Jeff actually highlighted, like either through this right, or let me put it here, or I'll explain it. Don't worry.
Oh, that's a good. I understand what you mean by that. So now it's gonna be alphabetically, or it's gonna be numbered by the highest like
Yes, that's correct.
count, the highest count or whatever, right?
By the count. So both would actually run and would actually return the same thing. So if you do it this way, it would be ordered by ascending count and not by unique or alphabetical. So as you can see, ascending count right here. So Grace in the group, so instead of specifying the actual name of the column, how it appears in my select clause, I just use its order. So I know that the first column is actually unique carrier and the count is actually the second. So if I want to order it by
Okay.
the second column, then I'll just use two. So this is how you would see it usually in, again, we want our codes to be as shorter as possible, right? So if you want to do that, then instead of specifying the actual name, you can use this, or alternatively you can use aliases. We will be discussing aliases. Well, for me, aliases is a bit more readable because sometimes this could confuse people. So as compared to using aliases, so I can even alias this or this, right? So I don't
Wouldn't
want to.
wouldn't the one and two be considered aliases or no?
No, not really. Those are not
There would
aliases.
just be like a short considered a shorthand or
Yeah,
something.
shortcuts. Yeah. If you would use aliases, it would also appear in your table as the actual column names. So that's the difference between using like the position and using alias. Actually, alias actually changes the name of your columns. So if we do
Oh,
that here, it would just give you the same actual result. Unique carrier. Okay, like, let's screw up with the spelling again. Unique carrier. It will just be the same thing. So this is just similar to what we saw above. Okay, do you guys follow?
yeah.
And you can specify. Okay, so this is hmm, um say we want a specific count the where count is greater than say 500. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here we are encountering an error. Okay, and I'll be giving a preview about it. Reason for that is actually when we apply the where clause here, the count is not yet existing, right? It's not yet existing. So this is actually the reason why we have the having before or after the group by. So if you argue that, okay, Jeff, why don't you try putting it after the from clause where we typically put it, right? So basically here, select this, where count is this. However, as you can see, there would be no grouping yet, even if you put it in like before the group by or after the from clause. So if we try running this, right, you would actually see that the count does not exist yet. So this is the actual reason for the existence of the having clause. Since this select clause is not really the first one being run by the system, it's actually this. Okay. So um okay. So since this is being run first, if you apply a filter after it using the where clause, it doesn't know how to filter it with. Okay. Now, if we use like the having clause, then it's completely possible because the having clause goes after the group by. Okay, I think I might have jumped into like a topic that is supposedly on the succeeding one, so apologies for that. I got so excited. Okay, I should have done. I should not have done that. Anyway, so let's proceed with this. I hope I did not confuse you with it. Apologies for that. I always do that. Okay. Um. Yeah. So group by with multiple columns. So you can actually group by multiple columns. Um. You can think of it as levels. So think of it this way: you have a first level which is gender, then another level which is socioeconomic status, and then the corresponding average grades or number of students who passed that belongs to those different levels. You're a male, you have an economic status A, and you pass. So something like that. Okay. So let's see it in SQL. How do we do that in SQL? So basically, you just have to add that column. Okay. So here you'll be grouping by unique carrier, and of course, the other one would be the distance. So you might think, is distance a good category to group our records. So let's see if it makes sense to actually um do that. Oops, sorry. So I'll be starting from the from class tutorial.us_flights, and I'll be grouping by distance for now. Okay. Let's see how many groupings we can form from this. So select distance, and then let's do a count star just to make sure that it makes sense. Okay. So the way I see it, same distance means same origin and same destination, right? So the same way, if you think about it, um, with the same destination and the same origin, the distance is actually a sort of an ID. Like if you refer to 615, it actually refers to a specific unique carrier, right? Does it make sense? What I just said?
No.
Okay, so let me say it again. Um, if you look at the distance, right? This distances refer to specific origin and destination,
Right, certain flight
right?
path, but not certain carrier,
But not
I would
certain
think.
carriers, right? So it
Okay,
could be like a different carriers. Yeah, that's correct. So a distance could be a sort of identifier, right?
right.
But but the carriers could be different. Like for the same distance, there could be American Airlines and LAX. Oh, LAX. Is
No,
LAX?
American and
No, no, no.
United. Yeah, different
United. Yeah, yeah.
airlines. Yeah.
So suppose that, well, to put it simply, there are ABC carriers. So, well, they have the same distances, 615, meaning they have the same origin and destination, but they are different carriers. So, yeah, in that sense, it's completely logical to use distance as a grouping variable because it basically pertains to the same thing as with um uh the the same origin and the same destination. So let's add the unique carrier to see if there are, right? And we are expecting that. There should be. Let's see. You can see now. So let's sort it. Let's sort it. It's not pretty to look at just randomly. Um, let's order it by, yeah, ascending distance by two. Okay. Let's order it by two. Order by. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, Evie and OO, they're of same distance, but yeah, more OO. What is OO airline? So in this specific destination and origin, there are more OOs flying. Okay, there are more OOs flying in it. Does it make sense, guys? Look at the counts, 137. So this distance, meaning they have the same, this EV and OO unique carriers, they have the same origin and the same destination. That's the reason why they have the same distance. So you can think of it as like
I'm still a little
competing
bit confused about
carriers.
the group by unique carrier. Like, why do you have to group by unique carriers?
Yeah, because multiple carriers are operating in the same destination and origin, Jeff. Like American Airlines, like for this specific example, you see that EV and OO, they are having the same
Oh yeah,
distance.
yeah. So they, but basically it's each of these distances is a different type of flight.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So essentially
yeah,
they do like basically EV could do multiple flight to LA and they do multiple flight to New York. That's kind of
exactly.
like
As you can see, you can actually see that in the count. Like there were 42
okay,
flights
got
done by
it. So
EV.
each distance is essentially like a different type of trip. Like it just they do trips
Yeah, yeah,
to
you can think of it
73.
that way.
Essentially they do trips to LA 42 times or something like that. Basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can think of just think of the distance as an identifier because again, the distance is a numeric value, and usually what we put in the group by are values that are categorical in nature. That's why I argued earlier, if it's logical to think of distance as an identifier, and it does, right? The only way that you will have the same distance is if you have like the same origin and destination. Like it's very odd to know.
Well, it's not
Like just
exclusive to that though. Like, let's say Phoenix to San Francisco is 615 miles. That could
mm,
also be the same distance from Miami to New York City. So you both have a distance of 615 flown. They're both operated by Delta Airlines, but that count could be those two different flights together.
Then if that's the case, then distance is not a good,
Yeah.
not
That's
a
how
good.
if it
Yeah,
was if it was
Yeah,
unique to a
so this
certain
thing
flight
so
path,
it's essentially
but right
this
now we
is
don't know that.
yeah, yeah. Right,
yeah. So
right
essentially,
now we
if that's the
don't know
case, the
that.
distance is not a good identifier for
It's not
separating
an
this.
accurate. Yeah, it's not an accurate way to like identify the specific different flights, right? Just like what Grace argued, yeah, it's a possibility that point A to point B is similar to point B to point C. And that would screw your grouping, right? So in that regard, then distances are not so accurate. There might be some inputs in here. There might be some counts that are like of a um different origin and destination. So yeah, those logic is actually correct. So well, if you want to make it more realistic, then just remove the distance, right? And just look at the unique carrier. If you do that, you will see that okay, how many flights have been done by AA? It is 18753. And this way you can actually answer like um which is the most uh probably ordering it by count is more accurate. VX descending. So I want to answer here a question such as which is the busiest carrier? It's actually WN with
Southwest.
42,000. Sorry,
Oh, that's Southwest Airlines. Sorry.
Southwest Airline. Okay, so with 40, almost 43,000 flights. Is it that famous,
They
guys?
actually don't fly all across the country, so that's interesting that they would operate the most flights.
Yeah,
So,
because
But
well,
they do a bunch of small flights basically. They just
they
maybe
do
they
smaller
again.
flights, yeah.
Hmm, the smaller flights, more frequent smaller flights could be the reason for this.
so maybe there could be another query where we're actually looking at distance. Like maybe their distance is not that much,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, let me see.
That's a big jump too, from one, the value of one versus the value of two and three.
Yeah, yeah. It's like almost twice, right? So look
Mm-hmm.
at it. But DL has 27,000 and all of a sudden WN has 42,000 flights.
Hmm.
Yeah. So again, you can explore, you can dive in deeper with this. Especially if you want to understand why WN has this kind of count. But at least we know where to start, right? What to search for. It's WN. It's like an outlier here. I was expecting actually to see American Airline here, but it's only just number 5 on the list.
Well, here's the thing. I was Googling some of these, like OO, and
Mm,
OO belongs to a small airline. What was it?
mm,
SkyWest. And SkyWest is contracted, so they hire their own flight attendants, but when you like get on the plane, it's on the
mm.
front of American Airlines, if that makes sense.
Front of
Like
American.
you booked an American Airlines flight, but they're operated by OO.
Ah, so it's like a subsidiary.
Yeah, subsidiary contracted,
Uh,
that kind of thing.
okay, okay.
So you
So
cannot just reduce it to AA numbers. You have to
yeah,
find
yeah,
out who
yeah. You
their
cannot do that.
subsidiaries is. But then what happens is OO flies 20,000 flights, but you don't book a flight with OO. You're either booking a flight with Delta or American. So you cannot just add OO's number to AA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see, I see. So those kinds of information again, Well, the first issue here is we don't have any description of the data set, a detailed description such as that. But if we have, then we can make more sense of why the count is such. Okay, so yeah, but going back again, I don't want to waste so much time here. Okay, I think I got carried away. But those kinds of things you can explore more during the lab because you have more time during the lab, trying things to like apply the skills you're learning in class, during lecture. So let me proceed. Okay, sorry to cut you with that, but let me proceed to this. Okay, so actually this is like the thing that we did, just applying the order by. Okay, so yeah. John, can you give this practice to them? Can you place it in the chat box and you go over them during the lab? These are practices that I made so that you can practice the group by. Hmm, let me see. Yeah, actually, this number three is challenging because you'll be needing to go back to the um logical operator combined with the grouping by combined with the aggregate function. So
Oh my God.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good thing because well, you'll be able to apply all of the stuff that you learned from like the very beginning. Let's see. And this one, yeah, this is just straightforward. There's an element of like a personal choice in here. Made it that way so that you'd be thinking, what would be the best. So yeah, I want to go with the aliases. I think yeah, we still have 20 minutes. I think I can still cover until having. So aliases. So aliases again, like um giving a name, giving a name to your. It could be table, it could be columns. Okay, so I can even give a name to this table in the from class. And why I would do that? Because there would be times that you will be working with more than just one table, especially when you're, well, in actuality, if you're doing it in actual job, there would be tons of tables, not only two, not only three. So there should be a way for you to reduce this, like a very lengthy name. Okay, so and that is through aliases. So we can use aliases to give a table or a column a temporary name. Okay, a temporary name, it would only appear in your output, but it will change anything in like in your database. It won't change the name. Okay, so we often use them to make column names more readable. For example, when we make a column using an aggregate function, we likely want to use an alias. So remember, when we apply the count function here, it has the count name in the column, but it's actually we can change that to total flights, right? We can do it this way. Give it a name such as total flights. Okay, I'm using a snake case naming convention right there. So as you can see, instead of just count, I use aliasing through this as. So the as is typically written lowercase. Okay, lowercase. So that is the syntax for aliasing. So as you can see, I was able to change the name here, and I can um do that here with a unique carrier. I can just name it as airline, right? So that it would be more readable. As you can see in here, it just changed. So that's how you use aliases. So let's look into this example that we have. So Again, the typical way of writing the as is lowercase. Okay, lowercase. You would see that most often than the uppercase one. So here, from the same table, tutorial.qs underscore flights, we would be grouping by the carrier, the unique carrier column, and then we want to see in our output the unique carrier, the max distance as max underscore distance. So basically we want to see like the longest flights this unique carriers have. Okay, so let's do that. So let's see. So from tutorial.us underscore flights, we would be grouping by unique carrier, and then we'd be selecting, we want to see the unique carrier names, and then apply a function, max distance, and rename it as max underscore distance. So let's see. So, oh, okay. First question, Hasiba, how many columns do we have here? If I run this, how many columns do we have? Will we have?
3.
Why three? Can you enumerate each?
One unique carrier, the other one distance, and the other one max. I think 2.
Okay, two exactly. So there are two, the unique carrier and max distance.
Yeah.
But the max distance is now renamed as max underscore distance. Okay, so as you can see here, we have it. And to make it more pretty and readable, we order by the distance um, in descending order so that we can see the top, the one with the largest. So as you can see, DL and HA have the same max distance. Okay, do you follow, guys? Everything clear so far? Again, we are building in complexity, okay? We are building in complexity slowly by slowly. We can answer more analytics question as we build our toolbox, okay, as we enrich our tool set. So yeah. So let's go back here. So aliases again, very simple. That's why I only have like one page of it in my presentation. So let's proceed to having. Yeah, we still have time. Yay. I thought I was able to cover this one. So what if we want to filter by an aggregate measure? Okay. So let's try it with the where clause. Find the average number of hours studied for the SAT. For each school, filter the results to include only schools where the average number studied is greater than 97.7. So let's see. Let's run this. Okay. I think it's very clear that we want to filter the scores in terms of average. It should be greater than the average. Okay, so let's do that. John, can you make a screenshot and then paste it in the chat box so that the team will have their own copy as I shift to another window. Okay, thank you very much. So let's see the having. Forgot to rename this one as alias. Okay, so for the having clause, we would be using a new table, tutorial sat scores. One good thing about mode, we have tons of tables that we can play with. Studied greater than 97.7. And then goodbye school. And then I want to see these columns. Select school, AVG, or studied. Okay, so yeah, what's happening here is that We want to filter all of the rows, all of the rows in our table. We only want all of the rows that are greater than 97.7 are studied. Okay, so it's greater than the average. So we are hypothesizing here that if you bring more effort, right? If you do more effort and invest more time studying, then it would we should observe better performance from you. So that's one of like type of questions that you can ask in here with this um SQL query. So uh so under the hood we have this being run first, right? And then followed by this by the filter. So however, the average value, okay, the average value is not existing yet. And you might argue, okay, Jeff, you're applying it in your where clause. You're already applying it. Why is it that it's not yet existing? If you think about it, the average should be applied by school, right? So if you think about it, on this line, you don't have any grouping. So it's not yet possible to apply the averaging in terms of this categories of, that you have in your school column, right? You don't have the summary yet, like how many, what are the specific observations that are belonging to the specific categories in the school column. So it's not existing yet. So given that, we would be expecting an error from here, right? Let's see. And there we go. Perhaps you meant to reference to the column SAT scores are studied. Hmm, that's so. Maybe the error I have here is actually from the spelling instead of the thing that I want to to point out here. Yeah, it should be HRS, right? Okay. Oops. So based from the error, it was not the order. Okay, now we have it. So aggregate functions are not allowed in the where clause. Okay, it's not allowed, given how hard you try or how many times you try. Any aggregate function cannot be placed together with the where clause because even though you don't have any group by here, right? So you might be thinking, Jeff, you said that the reason for not having a value from this SQL query is because of the inexistence, okay, the absence of the grouping. So what if we remove that? Would it still be possible to get a result from this query? The answer is no. Okay. Why is it so? Why is it so? Because the where clause, if you look at only from select and where, the where clause is being applied actually the the last here. Okay. So any aggregate function that we have talked about during this session can only be used together with a having. Okay, with a having. So is it possible to put it immediately here? Okay, so what if we try uh, select star and then instead of the where clause we use the having? Okay, So we received another error. So columns that score school must appear in the group by clause or be used in an aggregate function. So with the having, okay, it needs to be used together with a group by clause. In fact, it should be after the group by clause. Do you follow? So while where you can use it in its own without like the group by statement. However, its limitation is that you cannot use it together with any other aggregate function. So suppose that um you want to filter your rows by the minimum, the average, or so on. You cannot do that. But can you think of a workaround? Can you think of a workaround of with that limitation of the where clause? Anyone? Any workaround here? Again, the question is still similar. The same. We want to filter our rows in which we only want the rows that are exceeding 97.7 are studied. Is there a workaround? The answer is yes. And what is it? It is a two-step process. A not so efficient way, but it would work. Anyone? Or am I still making any sense? Am I still making any sense here?
What you're doing kind of makes sense, but like the why gets me so confused.
Hmm. Okay. Um. Yeah. I want to stress this because this is the typical area in which students are getting confused. So here is the here is the order of execution. I made the table, and you would see here the order. So the reason why I'm starting from the from clause from now is because it's being executed first, followed by the where. Okay, so if the from clause or if the where clause is being run first before the select, then it won't be able to identify where to filter to, what columns it would filter to. Do you follow, guys? And if you have a grouping factor, like a group by statement, then it would be executed first before the group by. So if you have like groups A and B, where you want to apply the filter, then it won't be possible because the filter will be applied first prior to applying the grouping by. Does it make sense?
You're saying that the
You'll be
difference is that where it uses the base data, having looks
exactly,
at the aggregated data.
exactly. The having looks at the aggregated
So
data.
that's why you could use having average.
Yes, exactly. Because the average has been applied to each of these groups,
Why can't they
not on
just
the base
design it?
data.
Why can't they just design it that where they just look at aggregated data?
We can actually do that. That's actually my question earlier. Can you think of a way, going back here, to somehow do a workaround of that? And actually, there's a way. It's very simple. Why not first look into the average value, and then instead of applying it here, right? Applying it the average here, just change it. Just change it immediately to the corresponding value of this average R studied. Let me do it. Okay. So select AVG R studied. Again, assuming that we don't have any group by. Do you follow? If you have a group by, then this would work. You have to group by and see the average for each of the groupings first. So it would throw us back here in this scenario. But one workaround is this. So if we look at that, what is the average R studied? Okay. So it's 100.5469. In fact, the question here doesn't make any sense because if it's greater than that, then let's see. Was it the original one? Let's see. Yeah, for this particular example, it won't work because it specifically asks for the schools respectively. But maybe let's have a like a different question, a different question that would suit this workaround. Like, what if you want to see how many records are above average? So you can just make it here, HRS studied greater than the value that we have at the top, which is 100.5, 100.5469. Yeah. So in this particular question, it makes sense to do it, to do this work around the first computing for the R study so that you don't have to apply it with the where clause. Do you follow, guys? So instead of applying it in the where clause here, I'm applying it separately. I'm identifying it separately so that I can specify it here without using the average function. So it's a two-step process. However, it only works for like a certain scenario like this one, this kind of question. But if we go back here, there's no way for us to do a work around because um, it asks specifically for school. Like find the average number of hours studied for the SAT for each school. Then filter the results to only include schools where the average number of hours is greater than 97.7. Let me think. Let me think for a possible workaround here. Average. So we can group it by first without the filter. Let's start with it. So from tutorial set scores, we will be grouping by school, and then we want to see this is different schools and their average are studied. So this is what we have done. Well, the framework is similar to what we have done earlier when we are learning the average the aggregate functions. So now we have here the following schools. Now we want to filter based on the problem, filter the results to only include only schools where the average number of hours studied is greater than 97.7. Let me see. By 97.7 filter by 97.7. It's not realistic in this case because we only have like three schools, so it's very easy to see. Well, in practicality, right? If you just have this, then order it by like sort it by sort it by ascending order, and then just look for the list below, right? And you will see those values. If you know the cutoff, then you will have already the list. So that way you don't have to actually apply any filter. You will do the filter by looking at the actual data. So does that make sense, guys? Even if you have
Yeah, so this is more like a manual way, right?
manual way, exactly, manual way. It only works if you have like uh um like a small number of schools. But if you have hundreds of thousands, well,
But
in
it's
that
not
case,
reduced to schools, right? Like if each row is a student
mm,
with personal identifiers, then you could do this grouping by like gender and say
yeah,
so male
you
female
can also do
average.
that. Yeah, we can do that by gender. Actually, we can. Let's see if we have that column. That's actually a great idea. Let's see by gender. Tutorial US underscore or SAT scores. Let's see if there is gender column here. Yeah, for this example, we are looking for the schools actually, but unfortunately, we don't have any column identify the gender. Yeah, but then again, so yeah, it depends on you, but oftentimes, for example, for this size of data, then it's very easy to look at it this way. Just well, look at the list, sort it, and then you will have an idea on like which schools are above. So basically, looking at it, if it's 97.7, you have St. John's and Washington HS. So let's see that. Okay. So again, I just included here that we're expecting an error. Okay. So expecting an error that this thing is not allowed. Okay. This thing is not allowed. Why? It's because of this, because of the order of execution, since where is being run first. Okay. So let's go back here and let's look at this correct version. Okay. And let's see if the order makes sense. So we know that the system starts at this. It identifies the table, right? And then what's the next step? Is it the filter or the aggregation? Is it the filter or the aggregation? With the aggregation, I'm referring to the group by, which is the next step. Is it possible for you to compute for the average for each of the schools without even grouping it first? The answer is no. Before you can get, so imagine this is the base data, this entire thing. If you want to say, okay, I have only two schools, if you want to get an average for each of those schools, you have to get an aggregation first, right? So this would be school A and this would be school B. Then inside of each schools, you'll be applying the aggregate function. You'll get the average here and the average here. Does it make sense? So it follows that the aggregation would be the next. Do you follow? Does, does it make sense? Will it be different if you get the average studied like from the base data as compared here? Would it be different? What do you think?
I wouldn't think so because you're using the base data, right?
Yeah. So it would be the same. Okay. Maybe to remove the confusion, maybe at this point it's not really clear. Let's go back to Excel. Now I can see the beauty of starting with Excel and not starting with SQL. Um, let's open Excel and try to think of what's being done here. Okay. Okay. So let's create again a data set. Like we have school, we have grades, we have yeah, only just two columns. Okay. So we have schools like A, A. We are referring here to student ID, right? Student ID based from the table. So that student is from the school A, and then we have school B, C, D, E. Okay, and then we have the following grades. Okay, I was too stingy there. Let's make it a bit higher. I'll make it in a way that school A is performing really well. Oh, 65 to 7, 5, and then 56, 55, 58. Okay, so the question that we had earlier was go back to it. Okay. Find the average number of hours studied for the SAT for each school. Okay. Oh God, this should have been hours studied. Okay, hours studied, not grade. Sorry for that. Okay. So yeah. So find the average number of hours studied for the SAT for each school. Filter the results to include only schools where the average number of hours studied is greater than 97.7. So that is our cutoff, 97.7. Okay. Now, what's happening right here, guys, is we will be aggregating first by group. So this would be group one or group A for school. This would be group B for school B. This is sorry, it should be a different color. And this is for group C. This is for group B. Okay. And after that, we'll be applying a computation. So we will be getting an average here for that group, an average for this group, and of course, we only have one here. It will just be single observation, and then another here. And then we'll have this um this average scores. So you can think of it as average or studied. And what the having does is actually it filters based on this. So the having would be looking for those values in here that are specifically greater than 97.7. Does it make sense now, guys? So once the aggregation has been formed, once you have that values, okay, of each of the averages per each school, that's the time that the having would be filtering based on the condition that you have set. So in this case, 97.7. Do you follow? Was that clear? So only after you have grouped the school that the filter in your having would be applied. Do you
It's
follow?
actually it's actually pretty simple. If if an aggregate function like average is total over n, you have to
Yes.
define n by having a group
Yes.
or by in the group
Exactly.
by in the group
In the
by.
group by, yes.
You have to, okay, that's all.
Not
Okay.
even the other aggregate functions as well, even the sum. You need to first identify which I'll be adding together, right? So in here, if you would make it sum, it would be similar process, right? It would be just like this, but instead of getting the average, it would be the total. So it's actually the same process. So the only time that you were able to form the grouping, okay, that's the time that the filter would be applied to. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do it with mode. Okay, so here, so from tutorial sat scores, we'll have, we'll be grouping by school, and then we'll be having an average or studied, and we will be only pulling out, we're only interested with greater than 97.7. Again, just arbitrary. Oh, what happened? Sticky keys. Okay. And then the select clause only identifies which of the columns would appear in your um, output actually. So here as average hours. Average hours. Okay. So when we run that, we would see that we would only see two rows because as we have seen earlier, where was it? Worry about that. To make sure I don't have any errors. Okay. So yeah, there we go. So 97.7 and 110. Okay. Do you follow, guys, on what's happening here? So if you go back here and ask yourself, what's happening if I apply the where clause? With the where clause, it's what's going on is actually this. You're averaging the entirety. So the computation here would be um, with the base data. So it's completely different, right? If you look at the base average as compared to this averages that you would get from the groupings, it would be totally different, right? And aside from that, the order of execution comes into play that the where clause is being run first as compared to the group by. Okay, so that's the reason. So it's important that you know this order of execution. It's important that you know this by heart. And as you may notice, our favorite select clause here is being run actually almost at the last portion. Okay, so it's very interesting to know that, right? Because when we were writing our SQL queries before, we are starting with actually the select clause. But what the system is running is um, the from first, which is typically the second line in a basic SQL query, followed by the filters, followed by the aggregation, followed by the filters in the aggregation. Okay? So questions, guys, questions. We've actually included that this part right here. Why can't we put an aggregate function in this select in the where clause? It's because of the order of the code. So from first, then where, then group by, then having, then select, and then order by. Okay. So the main reason for that is it's being run first, and if it's being run first, then it doesn't know where to filter to, and um yeah, that's basically it. Okay. Do you follow, guys? Was it something clear or intuitive? Well, it is counterintuitive actually. It's
Yeah, I think
counterintuitive.
we just need to practice it.
Practice more.
But I think
Okay,
it's
okay.
kind of sinking in concept wise.
Yep. And it's perfectly fine maybe on Monday to go back here if there was really still there's still confusion. This is one part of SQL that is very again counterintuitive, and students find it really confusing. But again, with more practice and with more familiarity, you would always remember that yeah, um, this is the order of execution. The reason why I'm receiving this and that kind of error is that I'm trying to apply something that's not existing yet. Okay, so I've included here some practices, and let me look at the time. Okay, I've enjoyed again so much. I've went over time by 19 minutes. So yeah, use the time in lab to practice more. There are so many practices that I've sent John from the folders, John. You can make use of that and feel free to create more depending on the need. So, yep, that's all for today's session, and I failed to reach the distinct part, which is perfectly fine. We can start with distinct on Monday. So, yep. Thank you very much, guys. I know the topics were pretty dense today, but yeah. Let's see after practice. Let's see after practice if everything would be uh more clear. Okay. So again, thank you very much, and good luck with the lab. Bye bye, Grace, Jeff, Hasiba. Thank you very much.
Bye.
You.
Have a good one.
Always a pleasure to have a session with you guys. You can have a quick break, John, before you transition to lab.
Yeah, I think it's better if we will have a quick break before we proceed to the lab sessions because I think the discussion is pretty dense and maybe it's better before we have some practices, we will have some refreshment. So maybe let's go back at the meeting after 10 minutes. Okay, so hello everyone. Are you already there? Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. How about Jeff? Maybe he can catch up. So our plan for our lab session for the remaining hours of our meeting, since we have a very long time for our lab session. So my plan is to divide it into two sessions. Like the first part is for purely practices, and the second part is for the graded part of the practices. There is an activity on the canvas. I found it. There is an activity in the canvas about the group by, also for the order by, and also for the other aggregating functions in which we are required to apply what are the things that we have learned about the having. So basically all of the things that we just have heard for today's session. But uh, I adjusted its deadline in a way that we can submit it until the until after the next meetings, so that if there are any parts on the activities that are not clear, or so, it is required to have some reviews on how to apply this particular function on this specific problem. So we still have a time to talk about that. But for the first part of our lab session, I prepared some activities and some additional questions as um as far as to practice some of the functions or some of the clauses that were introduced by our instructor for today's session. So I just took a screenshot of every activity that was assigned to us earlier. So all in all, there are, how many is this? 13, 19, 20. So from Sir Jeff, there are overall 20 items. And I prepared 20 if in the case that this is not enough. The first parts of the activities or of the practices. But uh, it is not required to finish all of this. So for instance that you feel that you are already exhausted, for instance that you feel like it is not going through your heads anymore because of the information overload, just let me know so we can adjust these things, because this part is not a graded activity. So let me share it to all of you on the Discord so that you can also access its parts.
This this one as well, John. Lab 9 2 is not. I don't see it as released in
Yes,
Canvas.
I'm not yet posting the Lab 9 and the Lab 9 dash.
Okay.
So my plans for today is just for us to allocate maybe 1 hour and 30 minutes for pure practices, and the remaining time of that you can use that for you to complete the task, or if you want you can take your test because its deadline is until the next week. You read this one. Let me know if you can access this one. SQL practices about the aggregations. So maybe at this point you are associating the seeing the times that you are seeing me into more practices. But um, if you think that there are too much practices, if you think that there are so many things that we need to do, or for instance that you have some errands to attend to, you have a busy day, you have a busy schedule on your works outside our course, we can always adjust this one. For instance. Okay, for the first part. Okay, before that, let me know if you can open the file so that even though we will jump from different tabs, you always have your copy. Okay, so for the first one, select arrival delay column from the tutorial US flights where the arrival delay is negative. So I think this one, based on the practices that we have the last time, you can do it very easy. Okay. So select all flights wherein the arrival delay is negative. So, okay, as a warming up, can someone dictate me the proper codes for this? There. So for the first part, we need to select everything, all on our records wherein the arrival delay column, oops, we need to select the arrival delay column. Okay. So here is arrival delay column from this table wherein the arrival delay is negative. So how can we convert this language into the language that can be understood by SQL where the arrival delay is negative? So how can we write that? Arrival delay is negative. So how can we translate this part into something that is recognizable by the SQL? So we can use the logical operators such as less than, greater than, those things that we have talked about on the previous meetings. So we are selecting this column, arrival delay, from the tutorial.us flights, wherein the arrival delay is negative, or in mathematical approach, it is less than 0. But before that, one of the important things that we should practice is before we run this query is to determine the proper names of the columns. So that's why we will select all and we will run the entire table. So let us find the part wherein we have the arrival delay. So here it is, the arrival delay. And it is written as ARR delay. So we have the correct way of typing it. So I think this one would not have any problem. While running this, what we can expect is everything that we would see on the result as negative. It's because of this filtering. Okay. So this is maybe an additional practice of the things that we have discussed on the last practices. And based on the discussion before, a negative arrival delay, its real world interpretation as you are actually earlier than the designated time of arrival. Like, for example, you have a -5 of arrival delay. Suppose that the schedule of arrival, estimated of arrival, ETA, is 4 p.m. So if you have a negative arrival delay, you actually um, finish your flight 5 minutes earlier. If this measurement is in minutes, so you arrive at the destination at 3:55 p.m. So that would be the interpretation of this negative arrival delays. So basically, you are not delayed. You are earlier than the designated time of arrival or estimated time of arrival. Okay, so maybe this one is very clear to all of us because we have a lot of practices about the where clause the last time. Okay, for the next one, select the unique carrier and flight num columns from the table where the actual elapsed time is at most 400 minutes or the destination is OAK. So who wants to volunteer for this one? This one is quite longer compared to the first one. So I want you to be the one who will be doing this. Okay, let me unshare my screen and let me call someone. Do you want to try it, Hasiba? The second question.
I will try, but yeah, I will try.
Okay, let's do it on the mode. You can take over the screen so that we can see your mode.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Unique carrier.
So down. Okay.
So the things that you want to select is where is it? Unique
Unique
carrier
carrier
and flight number. Yes.
and flight
Unique
number.
carrier and flight number. Flight number.
They want this one, not this one. Look at this one.
Put a space after it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having same thing.
Where?
Okay. Okay.
Where
Carry all those stuff here.
the actual elapsed time. So which do I use elapsed time?
Actual elapsed time
Cozy corners
is at
for
most
both of us.
At most.
400.
I can tell you the
Max.
column name. It's literally actual underscore elapse time. I'll
Okay.
put it in the chat because I had to look it up from the full table too.
Actual elapsed time. Yes. That's the reason why it's important that you run the code. You run the code for the entire table. Like the
Okay.
select star from tutorial.us flights.
You have it.
You select.
Can I go first, Iris? No, okay. No, I. Iris, let me have my turn, okay? No, Iris.
Actual underscore.
Put on good
that one.
job.
Mhm.
You. Iris, let's.
Elapsed time.
See how I did that? Yeah, me. Yeah, sir.
Should I write minutes as well?
Minutes.
No, you don't need to.
No, no, no.
I don't need to.
Yes.
Okay.
And in the query, it says at most 400 minutes. So it is allowed for the actual elapsed time to be equal to exactly 400 minutes.
Or destination.
DES.
This DS.
DEST, yes.
Is
E-
equal to okay.
Okay, let's see what would happen if you run this one.
Unique carrier does not exist.
Yes, unique carrier does not exist. And before you run it again, try to read your code one more time, line by line.
Unique
Select.
carrier. Select. Yeah. Right
Okay,
number.
and then what's the next line?
Where? Oh, I need to do
Okay,
from.
you need the
Yeah.
from. Okay,
Yeah. Still.
okay, you need to specify that the table
Yeah.
before you run the code. So you forgot to include the tutorial.us flights on the second line. Select unit carrier and flight num. Then on the next line, it should be from tutorial.us flights.
You should have 3
Okay.
lines.
Yes, you should have 3
Yeah.
lines.
This one should be where. I'm a little bit slow. Like too much
It's-
slow.
It's okay. From okay, tutorial.us flights. Okay, let's see what would happen if we have that OAK. The column OAK does not exist. So why do you think it is treated as column? It's because you did not enclose it by parentheses. Quotations rather.
Okay.
OAK. So, okay.
Finally.
And then one last thing. The arrival or the actual elapsed time is at most 400. So meaning it can be 400 or lower. So how can we interpret that? That the actual elapsed time is
Ordered by.
no, on the filtering on the third line. The actual elapsed time is 400 or less, or is it is at most 400. So meaning 400 is included
Max.
in the result. Yes, 400 is the maximum value and everything that is below is included in the result. No, no, no. Is it how will you interpret it? Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than equal to?
Less than 400.
Less than
Is most.
or equal to? Yes, less than together with the equal sign. Because it could be equal to 400. So that's the interpretation of actual elapsed time is at most 400. So meaning it could be 400. It could be 400 or lower. And yep, that's it. That's the proper code for that. So if you want to actually check if we have the correct code for the third line, you can include the actual elapsed time and the destination so that you will see that it is all of the destination is Oak, or if not, the actual elapsed time is lower than 400 or 400. Thank you for that, Hasiba. So let me
You're
share my
welcome.
screen again. Let us do it again for us to be clear. Okay. So the problem is okay. For the number 2, so we need to select the unique carrier, and what's the other one? Flight num from the table. Okay, do not forget that we need to indicate the table that we need. Flights, okay, flights in which there is a condition. There is a condition that we need to satisfy. It is one of them is the actual elapsed time. Actual elapsed time. Am I spelling it correctly? Let me run this. Actual elapsed time actual elapsed time. So I think there's no problem on this. Is at most 400. So meaning it could be exactly 400 or lower. Or the destination is Oak. So upon running this is the result that we have seen on the code of Hasiba. And to verify if the filtering actually applied is one of its parts is to arrange or to order them by the actual elapsed time. Elapsed time in descending order. And let's see if the highest actual elapsed time will not exceed 400. Actual elapsed time, and also the destination is Oak. Okay, let's see. So what I did is some modifications. I added the order by and also this 2. So that on the result, I can also see the actual elapsed time column and the destination column. Just part of the verifications. Oops. Part of the verifications whether the filtering really applied. Um, I think some of them, most of them, the destinations are Oak. That's why even though there is no actual elapsed time, it is still included. Okay? Because one of the conditions were satisfied. This or this. So at least one of them must be satisfied. That's why the destination Oak, all of this rows are included. What else?
Hey
If the
John, why
data,
you sorry,
yes.
just why you write the actual elapsed time and destination on the select?
So that we would the original code is this, right?
Yes.
And this one is not existing. But for us to check if this one is actually correct, okay, we should verify if the actual elapsed time, the highest value is
No, I think
400.
she was asking, because I kind of have this question too, is why does Oak need to be in quotation, but 400 doesn't. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if that's your
this
question, Hasiba.
I asked why he write the actual last time and the
at the
destination
select.
and the select.
So okay, let's answer first the question of Asiba. But
Okay. Yeah.
okay, so for the case of Asiba, the reason why we are also this is the code itself for the number 2. It's okay. But for us to verify if this one is correct, is let us actually see if the maximum actual elapsed time is 400 or its destination is oak. So that's one. And to see if the destination is oak or the actual elapsed time is 400 on the result, we
You have
need
to
them
display it.
to be present on the selects because the selects is the one who is deciding who will be presented at the results.
Okay, yeah, I got
Okay.
it. Thank you.
So whenever you want to see something at the lower part, include them in the selects.
Yeah.
Okay. And here we can see that this one is part of the result. Let's focus on the first row. This one is part of the result because it satisfies this condition. Even though the actual elapsed time is not recorded, it satisfies this condition that its destination is oak. And scrolling down to the others, we would see that this part, okay, row 29 is included because its destination is oak, even if the actual elapsed time is more than 400. The 31, line 31, it is included because it satisfies this part, even though it is not satisfying this part, because for the or, at least one must be satisfied. Okay? For the or, at least one condition, at least one condition must be satisfied. Okay? And to answer the question of Grace, why 400 is not enclosed in quotation and why oak is enclosed in quotation? It's because 400 is a number. So if we are dealing with numbers, it's okay if we will not enclose them by a quotation. But for strings, meaning the
Yeah.
letters,
I remember I asked this
yes,
one already. Yeah.
the letters, paragraphs, words, so it is required to enclose them by quotations. And for 100, even if we enclose it by quotation, it will still work the same way. It will be recognized as a number, as you can see here. It is still working. Okay? So that's for the number 2. How about the number 3? Select arrival delay column from the same table where the arrival delay is positive and the distance is between 2,000 to 4,000. So who wants to try this one? Jeff, do you want to try this one?
I don't
Which
think
one is
he's.
it?
The third question. Select arrival delay column from the same table wherein the arrival delay is positive and the distance is between 2,000 and 4,000.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, so let me unshare my screen. The next one
Yeah,
that I
can you still share your screen real quick?
okay,
So hold on.
okay.
Give me
So
one
the
second.
third question.
Select select array column array delay from table. Array delay. Okay, select array Okay. Uh, um, this is still the tutorial US slide, right?
Yes, yes, the same table.
Where arrival delay and positive distance.
I think the challenge will start. The real challenge will start at this part, the third practice,
Wait, what do you
because
mean
it
by that? Okay.
is because it will include the aggregate functions that we have talked about earlier with Sergey.
This is between two targets.
Do you have that question, Jeff? So that I can share my screen.
I'm doing this right now.
Okay, so you can share your screen to us so that we can also see
Okay.
your thought process while you are
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah.
Okay, arrival delay. Okay, okay. So the question is, or the query is, select the arrival delay column. Okay, we are correct on that. Select under the select we have the arrival delay from the same table. Okay, check from tutorial US flights, and the arrival delay is positive.
It's this.
Let me also do it.
It's not running.
It is running, however, it takes a lot of time. ARR delay in the US flights. Sometimes the codes are correct based on
Is this good?
its logic. Let's see. Okay, ARR delay. Okay, let's verify if this code is correct. Can you add another uh, parts on your code wherein you will also show the distance column on this under the select, okay, distance column, and arrange the arrival delay in ascending order so that we can verify if all the values on the arrival delay is positive and the distance is all of them between 2000 and 4000.
Order by.
Order by okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, see. So the lowest arrival delay is 1, so it is positive. And I think the distance it is the lowest distance. You can also verify it by so we are sure for the
Wait,
arrival
but why
delay
is
that
this all the
okay, what is it?
Hold on, give me 1 second.
So we are sure for the arrival delay that all of them are positive. So you can also choose to arrange them.
Oh, is
in,
there's supposed to be there? Are there's basically just there's a lot of different records.
yes, these are a lot of different records.
So that's why it's only showing this 1 page, right? So
Yes, yes.
Showing one page because you have limit 100 checked up top.
Mhm.
oh
But
yeah,
there would
yeah,
be
that's
there
right.
would be more within this database of tutorial US flights.
Ah, there we go. Okay, cool.
So there are 54 pages for that. And there are 5,309 flights that satisfies that given condition wherein the arrival delay is positive. So there is a delay and the distance is between 2,000 and 4,000. Okay, so this one is correct. Further verification, you can do that by arranging the distance in ascending and descending order so that you can verify whether the lowest distance is 2,000 and above and
Oh yeah,
the
basically check both.
yes,
Uh,
and the distance is less than or equal to 4,000. Okay,
yep.
so
So it's
yes,
2,000, and then do descending.
this is DESE. Okay,
Good. Good.
so yes, this one is correct. So thank you for that. Yep.
Yep.
Mine is showing differently. I don't know why.
Okay, you can share your screen, Hasiba, so that we can take a look on that.
Look, the arrival delay and numbers are not matching with what Jeff did.
Okay, so you can try uh or replace the order by the arrival delay, replace it by distance. The
Oh,
arrival
this
delay,
one?
yes, that one.
Mhm.
Replace it by distance. And you would see the same result as Jeff.
Okay.
Yes. And you can arrange it by descending order. You would also see the same result as Jeff.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's proceed to the next one. This one, can you perform this too, Grace? I think this two has the uh, similar things, and we just need to order them by the practice second set. Select the unique carrier distance and flight date columns from the table and sort them by distance in descending order. And then the second one is the distance again by descending order, but different selection of columns. You can at least show how you will do the code.
So I'm jumping ahead, so I'm going to highlight that prompt right
Okay.
here.
So number one, select unique carrier. Okay, so distance and also the flight date. So we are complete for the columns from the same table. Okay, so check order by distance in descending order. Okay, so this one is exactly the code that is expected. So upon running this, if you will run that, you would see that the idea here is it will just highlight the purpose of the ascending and the descending ordering based on the order by clause, which we have a lot of practices on that the last time. Can you try to run that one so that we can see the results? At least who's the highest distance. Okay, so the highest distance is 4,983 meters. So, or miles. So I'm not sure if what's the measurement of this, but that's the highest among the group. How about the second one?
So the second prompt says all columns, so that's asterisk. First sort by destination, so that means order by destination,
Destination.
comma. And then it says order by destination in ascending. The default is ascending, so I don't need to put ascending anymore. Then by only requires a comma,
Okay.
distance in descending. So
Okay.
if I run that,
I think the explanation of Grace is very clear and it's enough for us to understand. But the idea here is first it will be arranged in by the destination names in ascending order. So alphabetically it will be arranged. And if the after that, if there are distances, it will be arranged in descending order. Okay. So here we cannot see it because the destination is maybe if you will scroll it on the side, we can see the destination, but it is arranged in alphabetical order. Okay. So I think that's it. Is it clear to everyone? Hasiba, especially Hasiba, if this one is clear, in which we arrange first the the rows based on the destination,
Okay.
and then followed by what is the other one? Order by desks. And since it is ascending order, we can leave it as a blank, or we can type ascending. And what's the other one? Distance. Is it distance?
distance.
Okay. Distance and descending order. So since the default is ascending, if we want a descending one, we should explicitly write it. And let's just take a look on the results. So all of the destination, we are sure it is arranged in alphabetical order. That's why we would see all of them are starting with A, okay, and somehow it is arranged in alphabetical order. And if there are ties like this, all of them are from A, B, E. No, all of them are going to A, B, E. Okay, so that's the first arrangement. In terms of distance, who's the highest? So distance, where is it? This one. So the highest is 692. There are other ABEs that are actually less than 692. We can see 654. So if there are any ties, it would be also arranged based on the second criteria, which is the distance. And key takeaway here that the arrangement under the order by matters. Like for example, we switch its part. We switch its positions like this. And like this, okay? So first, it will be arranged based on the distance in ascending order. And if there are any ties, those ties will be arranged based on the destination in descending order. Is that clear? So the arrangement under the order by matters. So who's like it is first come, first served. So if the distance is the first one that will be read, the record will be arranged based on the distance in ascending order, followed by this. You can also, if you want an extreme ordering, you can add another column here, let's say the origin, and in ascending order, you can do that. but it will be arranged first by the distance and followed by this. Okay. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. I think this one is we are building up the challenge. So let me do the first one.
Yeah,
Or
this
okay,
one I can do. I struggle.
let me do the first one about the
Count. Select count.
okay. There are some processes here. Some based on my experience, even from the previous cohorts, there are some codes. There are some problems in which the logic on the code is correct. However, we cannot see its result because the time of its running, like you can see that before it succeeds, there is a time wherein there is a second counter. If when we go to the joins, for example, for the joins and the subqueries, it is normal that a single code, when we selected it and when run it, it would take a minute or two. So anything more than that, we are stopping it, and we are just basing on the construction of the code, whether it is correct or not. Okay, so what is the problem here? Find the count of flights leaving from each origin. So on this, we want the count of flights. But before that, let us analyze first the entire table. Let us try to understand first what each parts of this table represents. So we can see that there is a flight date, unique carrier, what flight number is that, and its origin to destination, what's its arrival delay. So meaning each row of this represent a single flight. Okay, each row represent a single flight. Now, the question is, or the query is, we want to count or we want to determine how many flights are leaving from each origin. Where is the origin? Okay. So from the JFK, for example, from the JFK, how many flights overall from our entire table is leaving from JFK? And it doesn't matter where they are going. So on the
Would
result,
you select origin then count origin?
select origin count. Okay, like we can try that. But before that, before we run that, let us visualize first what should we expect on the result. On the last cohorts, I think one of the ways we understand the codes is to visualize what's the result. Okay, so on the result we should expect this. There is an origin, there should be a count, and on the origin, it is somehow the values here are distinct. Let's say origin A, origin B, origin C, origin D, and so on. And let's say among all the flights, there are 500 flights that came from origin A, 455 flights that came from origin B, and let's say just a random number here. Okay, so the structure of our table should look like this based on the question. Find the count of the flights leaving each origin. So on the result, we should expect a column for each origin. Okay, origin A, B, C, and D, and another column wherein the counts is presented. So from origin A, how many flights or how many flights that in which the destination is origin A. The, sorry, the origin is A. Okay, so that's the problem. That's the result that we are expecting. Um, okay, how? Okay, so let's try your idea, Jeff. What's your idea again?
Select origin
Okay, origin.
and then count origin.
Okay, count origin. We can do that from the table.
Yeah.
And
And the
anything else?
group
Okay,
by origin.
group by origin. So, and what else?
That's it.
Okay, that's it. Let's try if this one will work. Oops. Okay, so we have the same pattern as this, our expectation.
Yeah.
We have the origin, we have the count. Here on the result, we have the origin, we have the count. And the
And
key
maybe we
takeaway
can
here,
order by specific.
yes, yes. We
We
can
can
also do
order
that, let's say,
by the count origin.
let's say
Order
count.
by count origin. By count.
Okay, origin. Let
Descending
me
order.
make it like this and let's
By
see
descending.
descending. Okay. Let's break down this code to make this simpler.
I think it's
Oops.
order by, right?
Oh,
Order.
okay, right. Okay. Order by okay, on the result, there should be also two columns. But the thing is, it is the counts is already arranged in descending order. So what is the key takeaway here? We said earlier that select clause, it is the one who is deciding how many columns we would see on the result. So if you see here two things separated by comma, you should expect two columns on the result. Okay? And typically when you have aggregate functions involved, group by is always there. Almost. Almost. Like when is the time that group by will not be here? If we are just asking how many are the flights? Let's say how many are the flights? Or you can just select start from this. So here, since we have only one thing under the select, we should expect only one column. Okay. And since we are just counting everything. There is only one row. That's why what we would see is only a single cell here. One object under the select. That's why we would see single column. And since we don't have any grouping, that's why we would expect count of everything, a single number. That's why we would see here a single number also. Here, actually, we can replace the origin by all or any column. Okay. When we are using count, it doesn't matter what column that you will use. All of them will have the equal numbering, even though others have null values. Because the data that we are handling using SQL is structured. Let me type it, structured. So for us to have a concise definition of structured.
Excuse me, John. I have to leave. I have unexpected guest.
Okay, sure.
So
Sure.
I would follow. You will upload
recordings.
this video after.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. See you on Monday.
See you.
Bye.
Okay. So continuing into this, the SQL it is an acronym for structured query language. Structured query language. It is from the name itself, it is used to handle structured data, because there are different types of there are different structures of data. There are structured, there are unstructured, what else? There are semi-structured, and there are also quasi-structured. But since we are on the introduction of the data analytics, our focus is structured. Structured is the most easiest to handle, because the reason is it is on the tabular format, in which the rows and the columns are clearly defined as data attributes. Okay, so that's the reason why computers can effectively process structured data, because its nature, its structure it is easy to understand. It is like directly looking into an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, that is a structured data, and that is also the reason why we can use any column under the count. Okay, so let's say we have another column here. Okay, let me create another example. Say origin A B A C D A C, and what's the other one? The flight, and let's say the destination E F G H I J, and let's say we have a missing value. It is failed to be recorded due to some reason. And let's say we have actual elapsed time AET, and let's say let us fill it with random numbers. Since the data that we are handling is a structured data, even though there are some missing values, the way SQL see it is it is complete on the overview. Like, even though this doesn't have any values, it knows that it contains 7 records. However, there are 2 missing. That's the reason why when we use count for the origin, it will give you 7. If you use count for the destination, it will also give you 7, because it will also count the null values. Because we are dealing with structured data, meaning the rows and the columns are clearly defined, or even though it doesn't have any objects, it is still counted. It is still treated as a cell. Okay.
So say again, you said even if you do a count of origin, it will still give you 7,
Yes.
not 9.
Yes. Oops. Let me verify it. 9. It should be 9. Sorry for that. It should be 9. It should give you 9. If you use origin, it will give you 9. If you use destination, it will also give you 9. If you use count on the SQL. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, uh, maybe if just some additional information about the count, if you are wondering why can we use different columns here and still get the same answer, and that's the reason why we are dealing with a structured data. And if I can remember it correctly, in the present world that we have, only 30% of the data around us is a structured data. So most of them are quasi-structured and unstructured. And that's the reason why machine learning, data mining, and other advanced algorithms is being born because of the need of analysis of data which is in the format of not structured. So this three. Semi-structured, you just need to modify it a little bit and it will be the same as structured. However, the unstructured and the quasi-structured are those data are difficult to handle and it requires advanced algorithms for us to analyze those type of data. But for us, since we are on the introduction and in the realm of data analytics, commonly the data that we will handle is structured data. But I think on the advanced data analytics class, they are somehow entering the realm of handling different structures of data. That's why they have parts in which they are applying machine learning. Okay, so going back to this, okay, that's the reason why we can apply or we can use different columns or even a star in using the count. Using any of those will give us the same value. And running this, always think of it that whatever are the things under the selects, it will show up on the result. That's why we would see here two results. Okay. And I think this one is clear. Let's try to see the next one. Find the maximum flight distance for each unique carrier. Or is it? This one. Find the maximum flight distance for each unique carrier in descending order. Okay, let's try to work on that. At this point, maybe just let me show you and help me on selecting the proper codes. So on the result, what would we expect? The unique carrier, right? We will expect that, and the distance. It would look like this. We have unique carrier and also the max distance on the other side. Under the unique carrier, it will just show us all the unique carriers, and on the other side, it will give us like for the unique carrier A, among all the flights handled by unique carrier A, what is the maximum distance? For all of the flights handled by unique carrier B, what's the maximum distance? So on the result, we would expect a minimum of 2 columns. Okay. And what else is the requirement? Um, the distance should be arranged in descending order. Am I translating it right? Find the maximum flight distance for each unique carrier in descending order. I'm not sure if it's for the unique carrier or if it's for the distance, but to have an additional practice, let's do the both one. Okay, select unique carrier. And since we are interested with the highest, so we will use max distance from the table. Tutorial.us flights. And since there is a specified arrangement, uh, uh, okay, let's try to arrange it by unique carrier. I'm not sure if it's for the unique carrier or for the max distance. So let's just do both. Let's see what would be the result.
Unique. maybe.
As unique, it should be there should be you here. Okay, let us run the first one. And basically the number of rows should be equal. Oops. Order by must appear. Support graphical error the Oh, okay. So we forgot something that is very important. The group by. We did that
That's
group
what I
it
was
by
thinking.
group by unicarrier. Forget the important part. Let's run this one. The results between these two is just the same. They will just be arranged in different order. The first one is arranged in unicarrier. So the highest distance managed by the unicarrier AA is 3,784. That should be the interpretation of that. So among all the flights managed by the AS, unicarrier AS, among all those flights, the longest distance 2,874. The same interpretation applies to the second set of code because the only thing that was changed here is the ordering in which they were arranged and based on the values under this. Okay. I think the aliasing was um introduced a while ago. So let us practice it here. So to apply aliasing, let us just apply it under the select. It is in the use of as. Okay. So we will modify the name of this. Instead of max, let's say it is max distance. Okay, let me know. Wait, I'm not remembering it very well. What's the syntax? If there is a quotation or no, I think there's no quotation. So let's
No, yeah.
say max distance. Okay. So at first it has a max, but upon applying an alias, it will be max distance. Okay. So whatever you name it, your choice, SQL will just follow. You can name it as your name if you want. It will just follow John. And at default, I think, based on the observation at default, it will transfer everything into lowercase. Let me verify that. John. Let's see if it will be transferred in an uppercase. I think there is also a trick here wherein what if you want two words as a name and you don't want to use a snake case naming of the variable or of the column. Snake case meaning there is an underscore like this. So max distance. Like if you don't want uh an underscore to set two different words as a single